So good morning again, everybody, and congratulations on participating on the WindAI competition. The aim of today's session is to show you if you want to use the Norwegian AI Cloud virtual machines for your development of your solution. So there are some restrictions on this, which means that this Norwegian AI Cloud is only for the Norwegian residents. So if you have a Norwegian residence address, you could use this, or if you have at least one participant from Norway. For others, you could use commercial cloud providers or your local resources at where you work, or even you could develop in your personal computer. The aim of providing this virtual machine is to provide a more unique competitive playground. So the infrastructure or the access to GPU should not be a problem to develop your solution. But there is this catch that you have to be a resident of Norway. But if you really struggle to find resources for your to develop your solution, and you're not in Norway, please get in touch, and we will help you to create a similar virtual machine in somewhere that you have access to. Before that, Kustrim, what I would do is that I'm going to share my screen and show you some links. Let me check. So I see that 20 participants. Is there a way for them to ask questions, Kustrim?
I think so. They can send the questions in the chat.
Okay. So in my screen now, Kustrim, can you read this text loud enough?
Yes.
Yeah. So this document that I shared, we'll try to integrate that into what Kustrim had shared with you regarding the competition page, the WindAI. So we linked it from here. And the reason it's not linked yet is that I want to make some modifications after this workshop, depending on questions that you have. So this is the main page that all information will be provided. The link I shared is a temporary one for the workshop today. And we also have the support email mentioned here in the same document. If you had issues, you could send a request. And if you fill in the criteria that you can get a virtual machine, the first thing is to send a request. So there is this link, and you would go here and fill in your name, email address, and country of residency for because of our funding restriction purposes that you had mentioned where you live, and then that to confirm that you are a participant of the WindAI competition, and then that you are only so these virtual machines would come with NVIDIA L40 or A40S GPU. So you're not allowed to use this virtual machine for other purposes than the competition. And then there are no backups on these VMs. So these VMs could go down, and data, if you delete some data, it might not be able to get back. So whatever you do on those virtual machines, make sure that you have some backup of the data and the code that you have. So you could submit a request if you want access. After that, we will provide you with the details. So in the email that you will get, you will receive an IP address of a virtual machine. So this will be your virtual machine, and we will provide a key file, which will which will allow you to log in without any passwords. So this key file is private to you, and for the competitions practicalities purposes, these virtual machines could be shared within the team members. For example, if there's a Norwegian participant in the team and want to create this virtual machine and want a Swedish colleague or other participant want to access this machine for these competitions practical purposes, we are not going to block that. So it's allowed to do that. But make sure that you don't share this publicly or accidentally share with other teams, which means that everybody will get access. So this file is very private and keep it safe.
One question from the attendees is, are there restrictions on the transfer of data in and out of environments?
No, you could transfer in and out, and that I'll show you that as well, because you need to transfer data in order to perform your analysis. And also, as I said, no backup, so you have to download the files as well. So that's allowed. Yes. So thank you, Kustin. Just keep an eye on the questions and just interrupt me if there's a question. And then next part is to finding a terminal. So the access to this virtual machine, so which is on the other side of the internet than your laptop, you have to establish a connection via the internet. So your laptop is in one place and your virtual machine is in the cloud. And then for this, we need a program called SSH. So SSH is program, a client, and a server that allows you to establish a connection between two remote machines. Fortunately, now all the new operating systems support that. If you're on Windows machine, you could use the PowerShell. Windows Terminal also has SSH, but PowerShell is a little bit more convenient if you can use it. If you're on a Unix-based computer, like Mac OS, Ubuntu, Red Hat, any of those flavors, then your terminal is equipped with all the tools directly relevant for that. And then in this document that I shared, to make it not too long and confusing for things that you don't need, so there are things hidden. For example, you have to click the Unix button to see the Unix example and the Windows button to see the Windows example. So you could see only things that you want. And then, Kushri, what happens? Is there any other questions?
Yes, one is asking, is there any way to customize the image? If persistence is not a factor, how can we set it so we don't have to configure GitHub and other tools repeatedly?
No, customization is not possible for this image. The image is provided as it is. But let's say if you have Git configurations, then you have to write this in a small file and keep it, and then upload it and then execute it. For example, to set up the SSH keys, you have to do that. The reason that we are saying it's not persistent is for sort of the commitment purpose from our side. So the VM will remain. I mean, throughout the competition, when we give a IP, that IP will be remained until the end of the competition. The reason that we are mentioning here that it's not persistent is because we don't want to take that obligation because how the infrastructure works. So if you lose your code because the VM got destroyed, we are not responsible for that. That's the only thing that I want to say here. But when we provide a VM, when you configure it, it will remain throughout the competition. So you don't have to worry about it. I mean, getting destroyed every other day. But we can't take the responsibility of keeping that alive for the throughout of the computational period. In addition, if you're configuring Git, for example, it's best that if you write down, for example, the key file that how you use. So if the VM get destroyed, create a new key file and add that key to the trusted key repository and Git, and then the rest of the configuration, for example, Git username, Git email, and then the Git clone part, you could write it in a file. So you could copy paste it, and then the new environment will be created. And also Python environments. If you want to create Python environments, you could use a venv, for example. Then you could export that to a requirement file. That if the VM get destroyed, you can use the requirement file to get it back again. So again, we are not going to like destroy VMs after we give it, but there is a risk of that happening. Yes. So is there anything else, Kushrim?
Nothing for the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the clarification. And then the key file, you will send it via the email that you register. I showed you a form moments ago that you could request this virtual machine. You will send that to that VM, and then that VM become the responsibility of that person, even if you share it with your team members. Then the terminal. So on Ubuntu, I'm on an Ubuntu machine. So my terminal looks like this. So with my username, this is my laptop. So on a Windows machine, I will try to get a virtual machine with Windows to show you. So on Windows, you could the easiest way to seasoned Windows users, you might know better ways. I'm showing you if you don't know. I could click the search button and search for PowerShell, and this PowerShell desktop app pops up. So this is that. And then you could also command prompt. You could use the command prompt as well if you want to use it, if that app for some reason not available. Yes, so it went into some management. So this is the PowerShell on Windows, and then this is the terminal on Ubuntu, which will be more or less, you could exactly replicate what I'm going to show on Ubuntu on Mac, but on Windows there are some modifications. And when you get the file, place it somewhere that easier to find. If you have mounted network drives, for example, make sure that it's somewhere that easy to find. So after that, this file that I will give you. So I have downloaded that file already. It'll be when you it'll arrive when you download it. It might have different permissions. But in order to this key to work, there are some rules with SSH that this file should be read-only only for the current user. So that is why this permission suggestion is made here. So regardless of what the permission is, I recommend that you issue this chmod command to modify the permission. Chmod 0600 NAIC.pem, and that you have this permission set for you. And then what's going to happen is that, so this permission, after this permission is set, we're going to use this file to log in. So I'll try to show that on Windows. So on Windows, you could actually do on PowerShell certain commands, but I found it's more convenient if you could go here and right click and take the properties, and then go to security, and then make sure that everyone else is denied, like they don't have any permission. So you could click this edit button. It's a little slow because I'm on a virtual machine on another virtual machine for Windows. yeah. So when that pops up, it will show you, it will show this tick marks, like who has write access and who has read access. So it's better that you use with the mouse click. You use the mouse button and make sure that everyone else do not have any permissions defined, right? So that is on Windows. That's a suggestion. But if you know how to do it in a PowerShell with the commands, please do that. And then what we're going to do is to use this program called SSH to establish a connection to this IP with the user called NAIC user. So when you get your IP, and if you're following this document, if you exactly copy paste this, it might not work. So you have to adopt it according to the IP that you get. So then you could copy this. And because I have the IP, the IP that I'm going to use, let's see that works.
I have a question. Someone is asking, can we also set up permission as a limited user?
For what?
They're asking, can we also set up permission as limited user? Maybe
Yeah.
Guru could tell for what.
Yeah, the person who asked, please ask, is it for the key file or is it the virtual machine? You can describe a little bit. I can describe. So when I click this, so it took a little too long, so which means that I didn't use the IP that I was supposed to use. Let me get the correct IP.
Yeah, so they're saying as you just set up now. I guess for the file you just gave permission. I think they are asking if the permission. Yeah, can we also set up permission as limited user, maybe for that particular file?
You could, I think, but it has to be the current user on that PowerShell. So if you create another user or a limited user, then that user should be the person who's executing that command. So the easiest way is that make sure that everyone else has no permission and the current user of that PowerShell has read access. If that's not that clear, what we can do is we can open up mic after the session, push him, and then we could discuss this. It might be a little difficult to explain now.
I agree.
So after that, we'll let the participants join in with the mic. Is that okay?
Yes, I will collect all the questions and then we can ask them. You can answer them by the end.
Yes. So this is one error that you would get, permission denied, and I'm going to also, I've also forgot to change this. For example, 644 the NAIC file, and then if you might get error saying permission for access NAIC PEM are not open. So which means that if the permissions are not set, it will happen in that way. So then what you should do is could change that permission. I'll expand a little bit. So these are all the kind of errors before I actually log in that you might get. Then you have to make sure that you have your user. And then you logged in. So the reason that I typed the first few like obvious mistakes people make is that to show you like kind of to limit a little bit of emails that you might send for asking help, because when you download it and log in for the first time, simple things like the permission or the username or the IP means that there's not much descriptive debugging messages for you to say that what exactly to be done. But if you get any of this, try to follow these instructions. and then see again what you get. So now this is the virtual machine that I am in. So it will get a little bit of a descriptive identity. And then this is your home directory. And then you could do your work here, create a Python environment, transfer files, and do the regular things that you with a computer. And then, yeah, I think there's another question, Kusri.
Yeah, they're asking, can I use one IP in multiple user for the same team members?
Yeah, so all the team members can join in. So what we can do is you could create multiple users as well, but it'll be attached to the same key file. And another answer to that question is multiple people can be logged into the same IP at the same time. It's okay. But make sure that you don't step on each other's toes. Like if somebody creates a file and another person deletes it, or things like that. But if it is a larger team, we could create multiple users. Then they will not see each other's home directories. We also provide the root access to these virtual machines. So if you want to do some modifications, create users, then you could do that yourself as well if you know how to do it. So the root access is provided, but use it with caution. Another reason that we remove the obligation of persistence is that because we are giving you root access, you could destroy your VM. So if you destroy your VM, it's your responsibility. So it's easier than we keep admin and try to do everything that you want. You could configure the way you want the virtual machine to give. And on the Windows as well, so it's the same thing. You do a SSH. It will be slow, this machine. So it's the same thing. You do the SSH and then -i for the key file, and then the user and the IP, and then you log in. Let me check if I can begin. Yeah. So after you log in, regardless of whether you logged in from a HPC cluster, whether you logged in from a virtual machine, whether you log in from Windows, Ubuntu, you land on the same place. So after that, it's Unix. So it's a Ubuntu virtual machine that you get. And also there's some details on file transfer for Unix and PowerShell. For the Unix, we recommended rsync, and for PowerShell, secure copy SCP, because that works better without installing anything. So it comes as default. To send a file to this virtual machine, let's do that and see. So this is my working directory, and I would ask, there are no files in my home directory, and I'm going to exit. Let's create a file for just to demonstrate what is going to happen. I'm going to use the date as the data. So by the way, you could transfer files, any type of files. There are no restrictions on that, but the restriction is the limitation of space, but we'll see how much we get. So I want this file, data.txt. I want this transferred to my virtual machine. So as you can see, the time is 10:28, and I want to transfer it. To make things a little bit easier to follow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up so I can show you. And then if you remember your SSH command, so this is what you use to log into the machine. So the change is, instead of SSH, I'm going to use the command rsync, and then I'm going to use a additional parameter called A, which stands for archive. So the reason that is shown archive is that this will allow you to transfer folders as well. So if you don't use that, you have to make sure it's a file. But when you use the archive mode, you could transfer files and folders in the same way. And also it will maintain the permission that you have. And then a V to show that verbose. And then I had to provide this extra instruction because we are using a key file to log in. The one we use for the SSH dash I. Here I'll correct it a little later. So there's a space between dash I and I pen, but I'll fix that. So you do that, and then this is your the computer that you want the file to land in at the end. And then it is very important that you have the colon at the end. If you don't specify a folder, add a colon at the end. Or you could, if you have like a home user, my competition data, kind of a folder that then you have to provide the full path. Otherwise, you could end it with a colon. And then you do that. And then what happened is that something I shouldn't have done. I should have mentioned the file. Yeah. Data.txt. What happened is that because I didn't mention what file to send, it sent my entire home directory. So make sure not to do that. So I'll send the data file there. So it'll make sure that it'll only send the data file, incremental list, and the data file has landed. And then let me check the VM now. It will be a little bit messy because my home directory landed there even with all the profiles. Yeah. So then what happens is that now that data file is there. So with that date that I created, if you remember, then I'm going to change the date here. Let's see. Fortunately, it didn't send my home directory entirely. Just send an incremental list. But that should be good. Let's see. It's date, not data. Now the new file would be different. Now it has a different time zone. When we give the VMs will give you the correct time zone. Now it's in a different time zone. One reason is that I want to show you file overwrite. So now this file is there on the VM, and then I'm exiting. So if you remember, to get the file from my laptop, I issued the command from the laptop. So on my laptop, I'm issuing the command to send this data file to this virtual machine. So the tricky part is that because your laptop might not have a static IP, sending and receiving both will happen from your laptop. So when you want to send a file to the virtual machine, you do that from your laptop. And when you want to get or download the file, you will still do that from your laptop. So now I'm going to stop this command just to show you the data file. So it's this date now. So I'll increase a little bit. And then to rsync it back to your computer, instead of having this data file here, you have it at the end of this home Ubuntu data.txt. How do I know how to write home Ubuntu? Is that before I copied this, I issued a command called pwd, if you remember. Here to find out the path for my home directory. You could also use shortcuts like tilde. So I'm not going to show that because some people have difficulty find out how to type tilde on a computer. So you do that, and at the end, a dot. So if you remember, there was one important thing, a colon at the end when you are sending it, and when you're receiving a dot, which means that to place it on the current directory. You could also specify a directory here. So you do that. And then if I check the data file, now this is a different data file. So this is to show you two things. One to show you how to send and receive files. And other one is that the overwriting of data would happen without any warning. So if you have the file with the same name, and if you are copying it back or to the virtual machine, it will overwrite. There's no warning in that. And then let's do the echo again to get this. Now the date is different, right? So if you want it with a different name, instead of the dot, you would do data2.txt and then data2.txt and data.txt would both live side by side. So transferring data, sending and receiving, and there are some troubleshooting screenshots are here. I'll add more things. I would also recommend that you could, Kushni would share the recorded video that the wrong commands I type before I end up in the first successful command. Slight modifications, slight changes and obvious changes that people will usually make before they send us email, and after several emails back and forth, we end up here. So avoid that. I made the mistakes in advance, and then you could not make it. That is all for the virtual machine. There's a question. Could you read it, please?
Yes. What should you do if you typically work from an EC2 instance and the IP is dynamic?
EQC. What is EQC in the instance?
Yeah, I think EC2. I think it's AWS.
You put it some Amazon virtual machine, or?
I think it might be a virtual machine. Yeah, from Amazon.
Yeah. So the virtual machine we are giving would be, we'll open it for the entire world. I mean, there are no IP restrictions. For you to log, if you are going to log in to our virtual machine from a virtual machine, that's not an issue. But if you're going to create a virtual machine on Amazon, for example, and you want to follow these instructions, then you have to replace that with your IP. Was that the question?
Yeah, I think that's the question.
Yeah, we could have opened the mics after this question. So that is the part one of this. And question, I will also show this upload link a little bit. So after you successfully build your model and you are ready to submit the solutions when the time comes, you will get a link to your email, a private link to your email. Though this email is unique for each of you to upload your files, and don't share those share that link. So if you share it, then other people will upload. The thing I'm going to show you is that this is like a simple interface running on UIO share platform, which is based on Nextflow. You'll only get this part. You will not see your previous files. So you click upload and then click text, upload, done. That's the only thing that you have to do when you get the upload button. There's nothing else that visible on this folder. So the reason I'm showing you is that we'll come back to that when you are ready to submit the solutions. So these files, when you upload, this will be received on the other end, and then there'll be some checking going on those files, and then there are some score generated from that. So I will stop sharing now. And then maybe we could have some questions after now and stop the recording and have any questions we have.
All right, then I will stop recording and